Welcome back to the Thriving Together podcast. I am Taylor, and today you also have Alora Yee joining me. We are continuing our mini series, Things Christian Women Don't Say Out Loud. If you haven't listened to episode 1 yet, go back and start there because trust us, you'll want to follow the full journey. But if you're ready, let's go because this conversation it needed to happen a long time ago. This is all about I love my husband, but that could be so many things. If you're married, I love my husband, but I don't feel seen. Or I love my husband, but he doesn't love me how I think he should. Or I love my husband, but. So today it's going to actually mostly be on I love my husband, but military life is tearing us apart. So if you have ever thought any of these things or the following, Alora is going to share some more right now. You're in the right place. So go ahead, Alora, take it away.
Yes, so I'm going to share just some thoughts, some things that maybe we ourselves have shared or others have shared with us, and we thought we definitely need to touch on these things and at least voice it so that others don't feel alone. Maybe you thought these things too, and you're like, oh, cool, somebody else said it out loud so that I don't have to. But one of them is when he came home from deployment, I cried, but not from happiness. I cried because I didn't know how to share my space again. Very real reality that a lot of us go through with integration. So another one is I resented him for leaving, even though I know he had no choice. Right? When you're in the military, you go where they tell you to go, when and where, and it is all a part of just the lifestyle. And that doesn't make it any more less hurtful and hard to go through. So another one, I felt more alone with him home than I did when he was deployed. That is also a very strange part of reintegrating and honestly getting used to them being gone for long periods of time. So I stopped, here's another one. I stopped praying for our marriage because I didn't believe anything would change, which is a really hard one to persevere through. I've thought about what life would be, or I thought about life would be easier if I just didn't have to do this military life anymore. This is another really hard one. We looked like the perfect or Christian military couple at church and went home and didn't speak to each other. So another really hard, vulnerable statement. And lastly, I grieved my marriage during deployment, but nobody checked on me because I wasn't the one deployed. And so here's another one where we really don't, it's very hard to share statements like this and to share feelings and thoughts like this. And honestly, sometimes just realities that are very much so these really hard things. So we want to start out with scripture to really hold us accountable and thinking and talking about these things from a biblical point of view. And one that really stuck out to us was Ecclesiastes 4:12, which says, "A cord of three strands is not quickly broken." And this is so important, referring to two who also have God. It is not just you two alone in your marriage having to survive in this world and in this life, that we are a cord of three, and that God is with us at all times.
And that word survive, we always talk about that, but why we're called thriving together is because we don't want you guys just surviving. We want you thriving. That's a big part of our thing. But let's talk about it because you and I have both been through our fair share of deployments. My husband just finished one in January, and yours finished one not too long ago either. And so I'm sure we have felt these at different phases, especially because when we started the military career, and I'm sure you guys as well, were really young. So it was a young 22-year-old when my husband started it. I don't know how old you guys were, Alora, actually, but that was roughly the aging that I was. And so,
My husband, he actually joined at 26 years old. So he had had a career before the military as a metal fabricator. And then he joined the military at 26, and we were married at 23 and 27. So at that point, we had been together. We'd been dating for 5 years. So I was with him when he joined, and obviously we've been married his whole military career. So that's a whole other thing too. When you've been with them from the very beginning and you have experienced their growth as well. And everybody's growing together. And trust me, there's ebbs and flows in it, mountains and valleys. And it's a lot from the beginning. Like you're saying, from young age, and the military's new, everything's
Yeah.
new, and you're going through all the new stuff together.
Yes. And so my husband, when we got married, he actually was not in the military yet. So I did not know quite what I you never know what you're getting yourself into, and that is a common thing I hate actually hearing is like, oh, well, you know what you married into. Well, actually I didn't, but even if I did know he was in the military, you still don't know what you marry into. You just don't. It's like any job application. You fill it out, they say it's going to be one thing. There's always 1,000 things you didn't know. And so I'm always like, get that out. People stop saying that to military people. It's just
Yes. And
so
it is
jacked
even
up.
like
Stop saying
still
it.
new. Even if you grew up in a military family and you're like, my dad he had a military career, and my grandfather had a military career, and my mom was in the military, and whatever. You experience that as a child, not a wife. And so there's still a learning curve. There is still a lot that you carry that you had no clue about.
100%. If you just stop saying that to us, we don't know. They didn't know. We don't know.
Yeah.
Just let's throw that out there. Don't say it to a military spouse. It's so wrong. But so let's talk about some of those things you just said because
Mhm.
I was saying we were young when we started. Now we're a little more seasoned. We have a little more silver coming through our hair, as we'd say. Let's talk about the loneliness of being a military wife. So, not just during deployment, but the everyday loneliness of it. What does it actually feel like? So, I
Yeah.
know right now you're going through a transition. So, I say let's start there.
Yes, it is very hard. You don't always get the orders that you want, and sometimes God has other plans for you. And you're like, I don't understand God. We know absolutely nobody here. And now we're starting over. And when we first moved to Maryland, I honestly felt like we might as well have moved to a different country. I literally felt that isolated. We moved here the week of ice storm that happened, and everyone was like, this is not normal weather in Maryland. And I'm like, sure, that's what we hear every time we move. We just have the
Right.
best time.
Is that normal?
But like, I literally felt like I just felt like we were on this isolated island, and we were just so unreachable. And it's like half of that was kind of true. We've been removed from our community. And at the same time, it wasn't really true, because I did thank the Lord for the people that He sends our way, because I did still have people reaching out. And we did have a friend who went out of their way to bring their family up to spend the weekend with us. And it was like, it was exactly what we needed. It was, Lord, you are going to provide, and you already have provided. And we do have people in our life, and they may not live next door to us anymore, but they are still there. They still exist. They are still praying over us. But those feelings are very real. And it is still very hard to try to get your foot in the door in this new community and figure out where you belong, where your children belong. How are my children going to find friends? How are we going to find a community? How are we going to find people who, when we are going through problems in our marriage or our children are struggling, we need to have a community to go to. We need to have a pastor to reach out to shepherd us, right? And so when you're brand new to an area, it's like, Lord, who are these people? How do we find them? Where do we go? How do we, and you just feel so lost. And that can be a very lonely feeling, because you're like, it's just us right now, and we don't have any friends yet, and we don't have a community yet, and we're in this in between where it's like, how do we can't be with our old community anymore, but we don't have a new community yet. And so navigating that is very hard. And I feel like in the silver lining in this move in particular was that we got a lot of time together as a family, quality time with each other as a family, because we didn't have a community that we were tied into. So it wasn't like, oh, we have this plan with this person, and this, we're going here, and we got invited to go to this, and we have this thing to go to now. It was, we didn't have a community here. So it was like we were just hanging out with each other every day.
All day.
And
Oh, they're still here.
it was like, okay, we don't have friends yet, but we do have each other. And it was like, and we were spending a lot more time as a family together than we had in a really long time. And we didn't feel pulled in a million directions. And I was like, Lord, this is very lonely. I have no friends here. I have no one to like go get coffee with or go thrifting with, or I can't make plans with anybody, but I can enjoy this season with my family. And I know that we're not alone. And I know that you're working something out and you do have people here for us. We just haven't found them yet. But that's a very hard season to be in. And I think it's important that even though sometimes our feelings can be liars, sometimes they also can be relaying truths, right? Of
I'm
like,
sorry,
okay,
I've not heard that. Sometimes our feelings can be liars. That's so true, though. They can
it's
be
true,
liars.
right? Because I'm like, loneliness is just a feeling. We know that as Christians, right? We know that we're never alone. We always have God. He is always with us. We are never, ever alone. But that doesn't mean that that feeling of loneliness doesn't come visit every once in a while. And we convince ourselves, I have nobody, right? And we've talked about this before. We talked about deployments and remembering who your people are, and reaching out. Because in those times where you're like, I have no one to reach out to, it's like your panic and the loneliness just overwhelms you. And it's like literally can't even think of a single friend that you can reach out to. And then you feel
Yeah.
bad because later on, those friends are like, why didn't you call me? Why didn't you text me? I would have been there, or I would. And you're like, I'm sorry. I just freaked out. And I just, my feelings just overwhelmed me so much that it was like, I honestly believed myself when I thought I was completely alone.
Yes, I think that is so good because I want to say in the last episode, I was talking about how I finally started I made a notes section in my phone. When I'm in an emergency, these are the people I can call. When I
Right.
am feeling this way, here's my 2 a.m. friends, right? Because in the moment, it is so true. Your feelings are
Hmm.
liars. They are liars. That is the best way to put that. Because when everything happened, I really was like, I don't have anyone I can call. I'm just talking to my dad. What is happening?
Yeah.
I had lots of people I could call, right? And I did. I quickly thought of the friends that I could call, but like, it took me a minute. My mom and dad aren't here. Andrew's
Mhm.
on deployment. I don't really know where to go from there. I'm just like,
Yes. Well, and then
and
sometimes like
so
you just don't want to feel like a burden. You might be like, well, I could call this person or you could call that person, but they have a lot of kids and they like their husband's deployed too and they have whatever. And it's like you just have to trust when the Lord tells you to confess what's going on, reach out. We're not meant to do this life alone. And God puts people in your life for you to reach out to. And so that is very important. And we discussed that too in the first part that we did of this series, but it is very important to reiterate and confess. Don't be afraid of being vulnerable. And I don't know if it like, am I going to be a bother or burden to this person? Or maybe they can't help you. Maybe all they can do is just be an ear and just listen.
maybe they
And
can
we can pray
guys.
for
Here's
you. And that's okay, right? Because you're like, hey, at least I don't feel alone. At least I don't feel alone
yeah.
in this situation. And honestly, sometimes too, the weirdest things, I hate going to new places where I have to park in a new parking lot. And there's been times where I have literally called a friend who prayed for me before I drove and like before I parked somewhere. And it's like even small things like that mean everything.
Yeah. And I remember I would do such like funny things, but I would call my mom and I'd be like, Mom, I think the piano got ruined in one of our moves. And I really love having a piano in my house. And my mom, I just like, really like want prayer about that or something. Anyway, I didn't know them at all. It was just like free piano. And I was like, Mom, I got the piano. It was just like those moments where you're just like, it's those little reminders. God sees you, He sees your heart, and He sees those moments of just, there's these small things that we almost hold on to as military spouses, have to continuously move away from our comforts. And for me, a comfort was having a piano in my house because that's now I actually teach piano, but like his music was what I did with my family, and like that is my comfort. And so when that is like taken away almost in a move, it's just like that's my blanket, your little comfy blanket. And but God sees that, like the Lord sees you. And even though I was heartbroken, He answered a prayer in that when I reached out in that loneliness. I know it sounded so silly and dumb, but it was like that was something weird that I just connected back home. And the same thing, I would keep a little cactus everywhere I would go because I'm from Arizona and it would make me feel like home if I had a tiny little baby cactus everywhere I went. And I think we do really silly things like that sometimes because of that feeling. You look for like little things that will make it not feel so lonely or remind you of home a little bit. But I would do weird things and I didn't know, guys. I had no idea I did this until I don't know, I must have been a decade into military life, but I refused to ever put pictures of my family on the walls. I would never put photos of us up. We had a lot of decorations and photos, just nothing was my family. And I felt like there was too much permanency to that and that it would hurt if I had to take those off the wall. And I know that might sound so silly, but like,
Actually, a very normal thing. It is such
is
a
it?
normal
Okay,
thing.
because I was
Yes.
like, am I so weird?
There are so many military families who literally they don't ever put anything on the walls, and it even can be hard to decorate at all. And I think sometimes too, I can definitely feed into the loneliness for sure because you're like, I can't decorate this home that I don't even know how long I'm going to be here. I may only be in this house for like a year or two. And so, what's the point of settling?
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't even feel like we can decorate our house or put anything up because we're just going to have to take it back down. A lot of times we can treat our relationships and our communities like this, where it's like,
Mhm.
I don't really want to share too much and I don't want to get too close to people that I'm just going to have to say goodbye to eventually. And that is one of the hardest things. And I know some people too. Well, I've had people admit that they don't like making friends with military people because they leave.
Mhm.
And so they live in a military community, but they're like, I just don't get super close with families who are military because it hurts too much. And it's true, that is a very huge reality. And so thank the Lord for people who are like, I don't care if I have you in my life for 6 months or 5 years or for the rest of my life. I'm going to invest in you and spend time with you and be there for you. And I think there's something special about that. My husband and I look back at all the duty stations that we've been to and the friends that we've made, and the world has gotten a lot smaller.
Mm.
And but that is such a blessing. And it
Yeah.
is so hard to say goodbye to people. It's so hard to leave states where you feel like I don't even know when the next time is I'm even going to be in this state, let alone see
Yeah.
any of these. I may never see any of these people again. And I have to be okay with that. And thank God that we have the technology that we do where we can at least still keep in contact with people.
Yeah.
Even if we can't live life week to week with them anymore, they still are a huge part of our life. And we have them to thank when we look back at mentors and disciples that we have had in our life. They still make that list, even if we haven't seen them for years, they do. And we still thank God for them. But there is a lot of risk in that for sure. And I don't even know how long I'm going to be here. I don't even know how
Yeah.
long I'm even going to be able to live life with this person. So I really be vulnerable with somebody who may not be friends with in a year from now or not ever talk to
I
again.
know. That is hard. So honestly, there's a lot of things that come with this loneliness, right? People not maybe wanting to have friends. But I was the person who there was one move we did in particularly, and I knew it would be about 8 months. And I went home and when I for a while, and when I was coming back, I just told Andrew, I was like, do not make friends with anybody. Don't you dare make friends with a soul because I don't want to say goodbye. I was like, so adamant about it. And so anyways, we got back. He had lots of friends, and it was like a whole thing. And I was so mad because I was like, I hate saying goodbye. It hurts. And actually, some of those people are still in our lives, and they were some amazing people at that time period for us. But I was just so irritated. We have to leave again. Why did you do this? And he was like, what do you mean? I know you said not to make friends, but I did it. Great.
Yeah.
So, so cool. But so I would say, first of all, remember our feelings are liars. That was amazing, Alora. Number two, make a list. I made a list. Here's my emergency list of when I'm feeling lonely and I think I have no one to reach out to. Here's my 2 a.m. friend that I know for sure. And who's my emergency people that I actually can call in these areas. And if you don't have them, find them. I am that person. When we moved to England, I legit had to go. I just went and asked my older neighbors, can you be my kids' emergency contacts? And it was They were the only people
I
I
saw a
knew.
meme about that and I died laughing because they're like this person that you just made friends with and have only known for 6 months. And you're like, hey, can you be my kid's emergency
Oh,
contact?
try like, oh,
And
it's so bad.
dude, and I was like, that's so crazy because that totally happened when my daughter went, she met her best friend in kindergarten and I connected with her mom and we just had one of those things where it's like you get to know someone and you just kind of like, what? Just your whole entire life to each other. And I remember asking her, like, can you be an emergency contact for me? Because I don't have any family here. And what if
Yeah.
something happens to us and I need help or whatever? And I remember just thinking, is this okay? Is this normal to like
Right? It
add
is
somebody as an
not
emergency contact you've
super
only known
normal,
for six
probably.
months? But it's such a military thing because you're like, we have no one else. We don't know. We got
Yeah.
to just make do and like pray and be like, God, give me good discernment
No,
with people.
100%. And the truth is those neighbors literally became my kids' grandparents. We love them. We still have contact with them. But they went to everything, all the grandparent things, they went to the school and did it with them. Everything, they ended up being
That's
the biggest
amazing.
blessing in the whole world for us. But I think I was days in of registering. We just got in the house, days into meeting them, and I'm like, can I put you guys down? I don't even, I had like a 10-minute conversation with them outside their house. I had nothing, guys, but it's true. Put them down. Obviously, make sure they're safe people. We could tell that they were
Right.
fine.
Yeah.
But make your list though. So make sure you have that notes list and remember your feelings are liars. But let's go into another heavy topic. Not heavy topic, but I guess they're all pretty heavy because loneliness is a big one. But we're going to get deep here with how this feels on our marriage. Have you ever resented your husband for something related to military life that you knew wasn't really his fault? And how did you work through that?
I think when we look to God and his sovereignty, it is definitely a help because one, we know that God it makes ways, right? And God uses everything in our lives for his glory. And we do have to trust in that. We have to trust in his perfect providence. And I think sometimes I have to, it is hard to separate your bitterness over the decisions that the military makes and that your husband doesn't have any control over it whatsoever. Not to say that things happen sometimes where you're, and I talked to my husband about this recently because I hear sometimes people say, well, my husband volunteered for this deployment
Mm,
and I'm really upset about it because he's been gone enough and now he's volunteering for them. And so I brought that up to my husband because I said, obviously, I don't know, like what would make somebody like you want to, I think sometimes assume the worst of the man, right? That they didn't even take their children and their wife into consideration. They just volunteered to go on this deployment, whatever. They're a workaholic, they don't care about their family. And that's not always the truth, right? And so I went to my husband about it and I said, what could other scenarios be? And he told me, he said, well, there is such thing as making military personnel feel that they have a choice. And he said, and a lot of times when people quote unquote volunteer for a deployment, you might find that if they didn't volunteer on their own, they would have been told to go anyway. And so he said a lot of times this happens, and a lot of families don't really understand that. And even sometimes the military person, right? They don't even realize that sometimes they get manipulated and pushed and coerced to quote unquote volunteer for things that honestly they would have been told to go anyway. And so there is this sort of sometimes they want to make you feel like it's your idea and it's not. And so I think having grace and patience in this lifestyle is a very hard thing to do, but it is necessary. And it's necessary honestly for your relationship because to allow the military to get in between. I make jokes with my husband because I tell him I don't feel like I'm just married to you. I also feel like I'm married to the Navy. I said it's the four of us. It's you, me, God, and the Navy. And it's honestly, it's crowded. One too many. So we're counting down the days to retirement. But it feels like that. It feels like I'm married to the military as well because we want to make plans for our family. We want to be able to schedule things out and we can't because sometimes the Navy's like, hey, you thought you were going to go on that vacation or you thought you guys were going to be able to do this. Nope, sorry. The Navy has other plans. And it is very hard to not be fed up with the constant interruptions in your life and the constant, hey, another vacation or another trip that dad can't go on because he's not going to be here. He has other things that he needs to do. And honestly, it sucks. I've talked to my husband about it. He doesn't want to miss out on all of this stuff. But he has an obligation to the Navy. And the Navy literally owns them. I think that's an important thing to remember is that they're actually owned by the government and they actually can't just say no or do what they want to do unless they want to go to prison. So that is an
Right.
important thing to remind yourself when you're like, why? You want to take it out on them because they're the closest one. And you're like, is there no, you have no say, you have no pull. And it's like sometimes they really don't have any way to like, change whatever plans that the Navy has. And it just is what it is. And you have to trust God with why again, right? And it's like you
Yeah.
just have to trust the process. You have to trust those things. And it's not always easy. But I would say that in marriage, especially like in the worst times, marriage is not in the greatest place. And then now you're gonna leave for a month and we're gonna be not only struggling to be unified together emotionally, spiritually, mentally, but now we're going to be physically apart. And like, how are we going to like, survive this? And I think, again, we have to trust in the Lord. We have to trust in his plans and that everything that the Lord puts us through, especially in marriage, is sanctifying. And there's so many lessons to learn and to grow in if we allow it and don't
Yeah.
fight it because we can fight those things instead of using it as an opportunity to just continue to show up for each other anyway and try to have a different perspective. And I think talking to other military spouses, one, if you talk to the right military spouses, it can be very
Mm.
encouraging. If you talk to the wrong military spouses, it can really cause,
Derail.
yes, it can derail, it can cause you to be even more bitter and resentful towards the Navy. Instead of looking at the Navy as something that honestly, we've been given a lot of opportunities in our family. We've been able to experience living in different places we never would have if it wasn't for the military. We've met a lot of people who we never would have met if it wasn't for the military. And so I think there is a way to be grateful, right? It's like read the book of Philippians, and it's like it is very hard. And sometimes that feels really harsh to be like, some of my feelings are valid. This is a hard life and this is a hard season that we're in. And at the same time, thank the Lord for his mercies. He has given us much to be grateful for. And if we don't try our best to stay focused on those things to be grateful for, that small percentage of things that really gets under our skin and causes us to just be completely unhinged and just rage is like it will take over that 95% of things that you actually had to be thankful for. You're only going to focus on that 5% that's just not going
Yeah.
your way and is just terrible and hard. And it's like, we can't live like that. We
No.
can't live like that.
I think there's so many things to that. So for us, obviously, Andrew's first couple deployments definitely were just like with his squadron. There is no choice, right? Well, my husband's a reservist now, and so his last two deployments, he actually did choose to go on. And I remember being like, "What do you mean you chose to go on that?" Right? I am the wife that was like, "What are you talking about? I thought you got called up." He's like, "Well, I did, but like did put in for it." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" And for him, though, we are given a timeline as reservists. We must get deployed within this many years. And, anyways, he was told anybody that is it just is like this little laundry list checklist. They are 100% going to get deployed. Well, my husband hit every one of those check boxes. And so he was like, so I was just getting ahead of it and choosing my spot. And so it made more sense after that. Like, I get it. You wanted to have a little bit of control over your save, where you're gonna head. But at the same time, that was my first experience of like, wait, what? You actually did that? I
Mm.
just felt so blindsided because I told everybody he got chosen to go, and he was like, well, actually. And I'm like, actually, actually, what do you say? And that was really hard. That was my first experience with that. And so the second time around, obviously, I knew he also was going to put in for that. But it does make it a little like, oh, and we're hoping that it, honestly, we were just hoping that it pushes it out so that he wasn't having to go on another deployment on our oldest senior year of high school. If I'm being honest, we're trying to a little bit be like, okay, we'll sacrifice here so that we don't have to sacrifice here, maybe, right? And it never, this
Mm.
military world, we don't really know if that's going to work out or pan out for us, but those are
Yeah.
things we were looking at. But let's talk about a couple of resentments that I'm gonna just be super honest that I experienced. One is resentfulness on he would call me and he'd be going out with the guys and I'm at home just
Mm.
like changing diapers. That was really hard for me during a deployment. There's a lot of resentment in that. There's a tit for tat that I think happens as well when they go to work and we're at home. all day and they come back and they're like, oh, I had a hard day. And I feel like for us, we almost are like, well, so did I. So you don't get to just come home and rest. I haven't been able to rest, right? I think those are two very real resentments. One during deployments, when we do get to hear about their off times, sometimes I don't get to just have an off time. I'm on 24/7. And there's a resentfulness to that. Or there's a competition when they're at work, even when they're not deployed,
Yep.
that brings it in as well. And those are two very big resentments that tear a marriage apart instantly. It is not healthy and it's not a good place to be. And I 100% was there. 100%.
Right.
So I don't know if you've been there, but like I
Yeah,
100% was
I,
doing
I
that.
think it's like the maturity thing too. When my husband was younger and our children were really small, and he would be in Germany or Sicily, and he would be out, and they literally live with the people that they work with, and they're with them 24/7. They're at work 24/7. And so they do want to do fun things. They want to stretch their legs a little bit and get out. And there was a time though where my husband was very immature about it. And there would be times where I might get a text or a call, and some days I did not hear from him at all.
Hmm.
And that was very frustrating. And I think when you're really young, you have a lot to work out, and they have a lot that they need to balance. It took my husband many years to figure out how to, one, say no to people and not be a part of the crowd. But it also was a maturity thing in that he didn't really fully understand that a lot of stuff that he was doing was not really like what a married man should be doing. There was like time and a place for those things. And so now it's like when my husband goes on deployments, he's like, look, I'm totally fine with like going and eating dinner and having a drink or two and going to get food or whatever. But he's not trying to like, bar hop anymore. You know what I mean? Like, he's not this like, young guy anymore. And so I think rank has a lot to do with that. And you're surrounded by and who you can hang out with, and just being young and immature and needing to grow up. And then the other part too is just like you get older, you have a lot more responsibilities, and you learn how to protect your values. I recently had a talk with a friend about this, and I said, I think one thing that we didn't really do in the beginning that eventually was really helpful is to create guardrails for our marriage before we were apart. And so that way we both can feel like heard, and also just all these things so that we can protect our marriage and protect ourselves. And it's not so much sometimes even that you don't protect your spouse, it's that you don't really trust the people that are around them, right? And so
Yeah.
they, it's like you're hanging out with. And so that's something that my husband and I over the years established that, hey, it's totally okay to have guardrails in your marriage to like, protect your marriage, and to maybe not put yourself in positions where bad things could happen, or that people could assume that bad things happened because you're in a situation you shouldn't have been in the first place. And so that's been something that we've had to learn over time. And so I'm very grace giving, honestly, and patient with young military couples who experience how do we balance this. I literally live at work and I need to let off some steam, and I want to explore these like, when is the next time that I'm going to be in Ireland or be wherever, and they do want to have fun, but there is a safe way to have fun, and there's a way that you can have fun and enjoy your time in the military and not put your marriage at risk. And so there is that reality of it. And then as you mature, even when your husband is very mature and he is away and you're over here struggling, it is very hard to not look at it like you're saying tit for tat, right? It's very hard to not look at it that way. And for me, I've had to learn how to just see it differently, in that I get to be here with our kids every single day, and I get to watch them learn new things, and I see their personalities changing, and I don't get to miss out. I'm not missing out on anything. And my husband is out there by himself, completely apart from his church community. He's away from me, he's away from his kids, and he just has to make the best of it. And he doesn't get to do stuff with family, or he doesn't get to go on the trips that we do. He misses out on a lot of things and with our family. And that's something I think I've had to have a little bit of a softer heart about with him, in that, hey, if you get to explore a city and try new foods and do those things. You've been working really hard, and you should be able to do something like that without me making you feel awful about it. And I think that really, I want to be very careful with that though, because I think the only reason that I feel that way is because we've come to a point in our marriage where my husband has matured and he respects our marriage and he wants our marriage to thrive and he wants to honor God in our marriage. And I will say, in the beginning years of military life, that was not the case. And there was a lot of hurt and distrust that had to be built back up. And so, if you're in a place where there is a lot of trust issues and there are things that have absolutely happened that totally validate your fears and insecurities, that is one thing. And I know that God can redeem those things and that we can be healed from those things, but it takes a lot of hard work to get there. But it is possible to come to a point in your marriage where you can be happy for your spouse when they go on trips like that. And it doesn't feel like they're out there having all this fun and just getting to do whatever they want and their family's out of sight and out of mind. And I'm over here like, struggling, trying to survive as basically this single parent. And it's like some seasons really do feel that way. And sometimes that is a really hard reality. And sometimes it's just two people who love each other who are just trying to make the best of the situation. And so I just wanted to be careful. We absolutely understand that there, and we've been there in marriages where there wasn't a whole lot of trust, and we had to mature in those things and learn how to prioritize our marriage and have a godly marriage and honor God with our marriage. And then that there was a learning curve to that. And so being on the other side of it, I can honestly say, praise God. If it wasn't for God, it would not be here. God absolutely is the one who softens our hearts towards each other and renews our minds. And I'm very thankful to be able to have this perspective now, because I didn't always have this perspective of I want my husband to have fun while he's out there, because he's literally missing out on everything with our children. And he's literally living at work with people who he works with, which trust me, he does not want to be with them. He does not want to be with them. As much as he loves them and takes care of them and like whatever, he's actually like, I'm sick of you guys. I don't even get to really meet a whole lot of people that he works with, because he's like, I literally spent 6 months with them. It's cool. I don't need
Like,
to
it's
spend any more
okay.
time with them. He just does not want to. He's just like, I've been around them. I've been around them too much. And so
I do. So those are important because both you and I, our marriages have gone through very difficult times, especially during deployments, with there not being trust, right? And we've talked about it on all kinds of different platforms on our things where our marriages are redemption marriages. The Lord really came and rescued and saved our marriages. And so we have been in those depths of, no, I don't trust you to go out. And there has been
right.
bitterness and resentment because we have been there. But the biggest thing with those is that we got to take our eyes off of our husband, because there is nothing good that really comes from us just picking apart our spouse. And 100% we got to take it to the Lord at all times, and not take it to the Lord like, here, God, this is what you need to fix on him. Lord, my heart, where is your actual heart and your intentions? Because sometimes we really are just irritated and angry, and that's not a healthy place to be. So sometimes I'm like, Lord, all right, fix me. What do I need to do? And
Yeah.
who really wants to pray that? What do I need to change? No, I'm not doing, to me, I was never doing anything wrong, right? That's a hard place to come to the Lord. Fix him and then tell me what to do. But
You're like, fix me too, I guess. Oh, whatever.
right? For me, it would be like, tell me what to do so I can help better aid that in his fixing, right? It wasn't tell
Right.
me what to change in myself. Show me how I should just support him so he can keep changing.
He needs
Guys,
to
it's so
grow. That's
bad.
the problem.
It's not
It's
me.
true. You
It's
know
you.
what though? So I'm just gonna tell the story. So I recently, and here's the thing, when you have a past like that too in your marriage, when you go through small things that are very normal things in marriage, it feels even more intense, I feel like, because it's almost like you get these, I don't know, maybe a sort of little bit of PTSD or something, where you're like, are we having issues because something's going on? Or are we just having issues because it's normal and we're just at that point in marriage? And so recently I felt like we had, before this move, we had realized we were bickering a lot. And it was like, something is just not, we're just not on the same wavelength. We're just on two completely different pages and we just can't get it together. And we had realized that we had actually not been on a date in 14 months or something
Oh,
crazy.
jeez.
And I was like, how did we let, and honestly, I had to take some responsibility in it too, because I was like, neither one of us have even thought about prioritizing going on a date in well over a year. How does that even happen? And so it was like, well, no wonder we are just not connecting with each other. And obviously that affects other areas in your marriage where you're like, we're not connecting like we should. And so stuff is not happening that would normally not be a problem. And so, anyways, then we went on a couple dates and it was like, that was nice. But then it's like, we had this big move and now we're living in a new area and we don't really have the community that we did before. And so it's like, okay, what do we do? And I was like, I really want to go on more dates. And honestly started to feel like lonely to the point where I was like, I feel like my husband does not pursue me. And I feel like unwanted and like he's not attracted to me. And like, I just started feeling like all these things. And it's like those feelings, they start honestly piling up. They just start multiplying. And you're just like, I'm not lovable. And I don't even know. You just start going down this
Wait,
rabbit
so
hole.
what was your thing? Feelings can be liars.
Feelings can be liars, right? Absolutely can. And so, and here's the thing, I can sit with the reality that my husband loves me in different ways. My husband, he takes care of my vehicle, he makes sure it's safe to drive. He is on top of like taking the trash out every single day. My husband, I'm very fortunate. My husband cooks dinner every night. He does
Still
most of the
jealous.
grocery
But
shopping. My husband does a lot of things for our household that for him, he is showing his way of loving us. But especially when we go through a move, my husband is just so finances, stress of buying a home and taking care, like making sure everything is paid and our bills are, we have new bills. And so it's like, are we adjusting to that? And he's all these stresses going on. And I'm over here worried about our marriage of we're not really connecting. And so isn't that also important? But I want to throw a fit about it. I'm so tired and exhausted that why should I be the one to constantly fix our marriage? Why am I always the one that has to nag and complain and be like, we need to go on more dates and we need to spend more time together and we need to have more conversations and we need to communicate more? And I'm annoyed with my own self and I haven't even done anything yet. And so it's like, I literally was like, look, I talked to Taylor about it and I said, I just feel like not even just in my marriage, I just feel like in life in general right now, I don't want to be the one to reach out. I don't want to be the one to be constantly doing the things that I know need to be done. I said, I want to be pursued. And he's not, he just, and no matter how many times I tell him, I want to be pursued, I want you to take me on dates, that he doesn't do it. He's not doing it. And it's like he's worried about all these other things. But the one thing that I'm telling him to worry about, he's not doing. And honestly, let me tell you something. What is that scripture where it says, better is a rebuke from a friend than a kiss from an enemy, right? Literally.
yes.
It was one of those moments. And Taylor literally told me, she said, I just had to get over wanting to be pursued. And I'm like, and she's just like, I just, if you know how to, if you're like, hey, this is what's going to solve this problem, we just need to go on more dates. And she's like, I can relate. I'm going through the exact same thing. And I went to my husband and I told him, hey, I need you to take me on a date every week and pick a day. And it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be crazy. We can go on a walk together. We can get a coffee together. It doesn't have to be this fancy dinner or whatever. I just want your presence. I just want to spend time with you. And she told me about them doing dates once a week. On that day of the week, they do something together. And it can be anything. So I was like, I literally went to my husband. Honestly, like, it kind of hurt me a little bit because I
I'm
went to my
sorry.
husband.
I love you.
I went to my husband and I told him, this is what Taylor told me. This is the advice that Taylor told me. This is what the advice that she gave me. And he goes, Taylor is a wise woman. And I'm like, honestly, no, stop. So I'm like, Holy Spirit, that's too much. You've gone too far. But I really did. I needed that reality check and I needed that reminder that absolutely, if I have the solution to the it's not like I have a problem and I don't have the solution and I'm like, I don't know
Yeah.
what to do. I do know what my marriage needs and I do know what I need. And so if I have that knowledge and I know what needs to be done, then isn't it
Then do it.
for me to do it, right? Scripture literally says, like, you know what you ought to do and you don't do it, that's sin for you, right? For me to sit back and be like, I'm just going to wait for my husband to get it together and like between the lines, it's no, I'm just harboring more bitterness and resentment towards my husband for not doing the things that he's honestly never going to do because he's worried about our finances and he's worried about this war going on and he's worried about work and he's worried about, he has all these stressors in his life. And it's like, well, maybe the Lord put this on my heart because I'm the one that can actually handle doing something about it and making a plan for it.
And
As
for
much as it annoys me, and honestly, it's been great. We picked a day. We leave the house for an hour and a half. We don't go too far from the house. We go down the road, and we pick. You just we do cheap stuff. Sometimes we just walk around. Sometimes whatever. And it's like sometimes we go shopping together. But it's like we've been doing this once a week. And honestly, there was a part of me. This is a woman thing. There's a part of me that was like, is he going on dates with me because he actually wants to go on dates with me, or is he going on dates with me because I told him he has to go on dates with me? One of those things, right? Is he doing it
lies,
because
they're lies again.
really want you. But the other night I told him, I said, I really like that we've been going on dates together. And he goes, I love going on dates with you. And I was like,
Aw.
okay, it's genuine.
100%. Well, so, and when that all happened, I remember because I was so irritated with my husband. I just want you to take me out, right? And he's like, listen, I would love to go out with you. The thing is like all the babysitters. You hold all those cards, and I don't want to be texting some teenage girl. Fair point, husband. My bad. Didn't look at it that way. I also don't want you texting a teenager. My bad. Didn't think of it like that. You know what I'm saying? And so now our kids are older, but like at the time that was a huge thing. And he was like, of course I want to go on a date with you. I also don't hold the cards you hold, and I'm not gonna start doing that. So there was that point of touche, I guess I got to get over myself, right? And once I got over myself, it's been great. And our kids always know when Tuesday hits, are you guys going on date night? And we actually missed date night last night because I've been sick. You can probably hear it through my voice, but it's like, no, we're going on a date night. But the moment I got over it was so good because I really needed to just listen to the Lord. And now it's just a standing Tuesday night.
Right.
Tuesday,
And
we're out.
honestly, like
We're
what's
heading
more
out.
important is your pride more important than your marriage getting better and you guys being able to connect with each other and have time. That is more important. And sometimes you do have to, I gotta let go of some of my pride. Cause I honestly, I will admit, I was like, I'm trying to throw a fit here, Taylor. I
I'm
just
sorry.
don't want to do it. I just don't want to
Currently,
do it.
don't call me if you want to throw a fit. I am so sorry.
But it was exactly what I needed. I went to other friends and I told them, I was like, I really needed her to say this to me. And they're like, what? Maybe, I don't know, like, maybe, but maybe he should be like pursuing you and all these things. And it's like, look, I think there are seasons that you go through in your marriage. I look at my parents and they're way ahead of us, right? They've been married way longer than we have. They're older than us. And I look at how my dad treats my mom and over the years, how they've matured. And sometimes I'm like, I got to stop the comparison trap of, well, how come my husband doesn't do that stuff for me? And whatever. And it's like, well, one, he may do different things because he's not my dad, right? He's not my stepdad. He's not the same person. But I've seen the way that my stepdad has matured and I've seen the way that their marriage has matured and the way how they love each other is just a totally different level. And it's like, well, we're not there yet. We are not at that point in our life yet. We have children to raise still. We're not at that point yet. And I think it's one comparison absolutely kills if you're looking at other, especially military
Well, what
couples
is that
and
thing?
like
Comparison is the thief of joy or something
is the
like
thief
that.
of joy because if
Don't compare.
you're not the same people, so your marriage is not ever even going to look like somebody else's marriage even at its best. It's just going to be different. And so we do have to trust the Lord with those things they're saying, right? Take it to the Lord. And I love, honestly, I looked at your advice that you had given me, was very biblical advice, and it was very like convicting, and conviction is not the same thing as we've talked about that before. Conviction is something that's like, it's a good thing. It's not the same thing as like shame or guilt or those things. And so we do have to go to the Lord with those things and say, and like you said, right, it's not about, hey Lord, help me fix my husband. Hey Lord, show me what it is that I need to do to be obedient to you and be a faithful, God-fearing wife. Take the eyes off of your husband, put them
Hmm.
back on Christ, go to scripture, pray about it. And I know that's like, it's just, it's like harsh,
But it's
but
good.
it's good.
But it hurts. I'm not gonna lie. Our pride hurts when we have to do that. But even with me taking those reins and doing that, the Lord blesses that as well because my husband definitely just planned our whole anniversary and different stuff. It does come out later when you establish these routines and just get out of your own way. It's really important that we sometimes take the words. I had no idea that you hated what I said to you. I love you so much. I do tell people sometimes, I'm like, I am so sorry. You're going to be really mad in about 2 seconds when I give you what I really think.
Honestly, that is what I look for in a friendship, is a friend that is not afraid to hurt my feelings because they love me enough to tell me the truth. I absolutely appreciated it 100%.
Well, this has been a great conversation so far. We're actually going to continue to pick this one up because it's just such a big topic of different
Mhm.
areas that can, the enemy can come in and just really wreak havoc on our marriage. So we will pick this back up next week, and I'm pretty excited about it. So until then, guys, keep soaring, and we can't wait to continue this conversation. Bye, guys.